If you feel like you've hit a late summer plateau with your power and fitness on the bike, then I've got 3 sessions for you today which are really going to allow you to start making progress again, eke out some really good gains now during the back end of the summer. This could be really useful for you, certainly if you've got any late summer events, any trips that you may have planned around September, October time, or you really just want to now go into the winter having built a really strong base, made some really good progress, so you can then even try and maintain that through winter, or even then build on that going into next year. So let's get straight to it. The first session then I want to go through, as I said, I'm going to give you 3 sessions today. Now, I've really been speaking to a lot of riders and they've been saying, potentially just been doing the same sort of type of riding now since the early summer. They've been doing group rides every single week, maybe have lost a bit of structure that they were doing earlier in the year, and they've just been going out riding. Some of this has been low intensity, some of it's been medium intensity. Now and again, they've done a bit of a chain gang or potentially some harder rides with some climbing, but they've really been in a regular routine and structure with that now, or just doing that ride for a long time. And as I say, because of this, you may have also then felt that really you've just hit a plateau, not seen an improvement in your climbing. Maybe your speed has come down a little bit. You're finding that you're falling back on any group rides, struggling with climbs. So these 3 sessions that I'm going to give you today will really help with this. So first one, 4 times 4 minutes. Basically a VO2 max session. If you followed me for a while, then I refer to this session a lot. It's a great way to really make some good progress with your VO2 max. The more we can bring up that top end, the better or more efficient that we can make your body at utilizing oxygen. You will really see a kick on with your power and fitness if you haven't already been doing this type of training, or you might have done some of it before, but over the past 6 to 8 weeks, it's really fallen out of your riding. So bringing this back in will give you a real good kick. So it's 4 times 4 minutes. And the intensity that I want you to focus on within the 4-minute efforts is really around 115% of your FTP. Okay, when you're doing the 4 minutes. Really you can do this on a climb. If you've got around a 4-minute climb that you can access to, great, get yourself on there. You can really do some repeats up there using the 4 minutes there. If you haven't got a climb, you've only got access to a flatter section of road and you would like to do it outdoors, this is also absolutely fine. Or of course, there's always the option of the turbo trainer. However, I understand at this time of year, you may still want to keep as much of your riding out on the road with it still being summer. Then, as I say, yeah, bit of a gradient. If you've got one, brilliant. Not the end of the world though. You can still do this 4 times 4 minute session on a flat section. Certainly for those who want to improve that flat speed, this is a great session to do that. So the 4 times 4 minutes there at 115% of FTP, that's what you want to really target. Okay. The recovery periods then we're going to do, recovery will then also be 3 to 4 minutes, I would advise. Okay, when you're doing the bouts, the recovery bouts between, and I would advise doing those at anything between, really like 50 to 65% of your FTP is what you can do there. And the recovery will be, as I mentioned, 3 to 4 minutes. If you haven't done much interval training or VO2 or climbing work or anything over the past, certainly 2-3 months, then you might want to start with a 4-minute recovery just to allow yourself to get back into the intervals, really have a little bit of a longer recovery time between each effort. You could then, as you start to progress, to overload the session or make it a little bit harder, go for 3 minutes. Or if you have already been doing some intervals and you want to really progress this, then you can just make that a little bit shorter. But yeah, 3 to 4 minutes. This might also depend on the hill, the piece of terrain that you're using, on how you can time it. But ideally, yeah, 3 to 4 minutes between the 4-minute efforts. That's session 1. If you haven't been doing that and you start to incorporate that at least once a week, I'm not being funny, this session alone will allow you to really just build up that power. You'll feel your top end coming back. You'll notice an improvement in your climbing performance and some really good progress with it there. I would always recommend at least a minimum 10 minute, but around a 15-minute warm up prior to going into this session. If you can do 20 minutes, great. You might have to do a bit longer if you're using a hill that you need to get out to perform this session. And then when you can ride back home, and that potentially might be your cool down at the end of it as well. Okay, so that's session 1 there. Take a screenshot, take a video, take a picture now. That's the session 1 there, which is really going to help. Session 2 then. I'm going to leave the recovery period as the recovery intensity there, as that generally stays the same. Okay, that generally stays the same between the types of efforts that we're doing. So I'm going to move on to the next session and we'll update that there in a moment. Second session then, real good session to improve certainly sustained effort. So if you feel that your sustained power has been dropping. So if you're a time trialist, if you live somewhere maybe like over here in the Alps and you have some long sustained climbs that you ride regularly, or just generally you want to build that sustained power, maybe improve your power at threshold, FTP, this is a really good session to be able to do that. So it's basically 2 times 16 minutes, and I would recommend the intensity for this is anything between, we're going to say 95% as a general ballpark, okay? 95% of your FTP starting out. If you've not been doing any types of sustained efforts, then you potentially might start at around, sort of 90 to 95%. As you progress this on, you might target around 95% of your FTP. And as you start to get fitter and bring this in again and really start to see some progress, you can potentially aim for 95 to 100% of your FTP for the 16-minute efforts there. Okay, but again, as I said, really good session, improving that sustained power, improving your body's lactate tolerance, the ability to sustain power for those longer periods. I'm sure that you can relate to that somewhere in the type of riding that you're doing. Also on those faster paced group rides, just being able to sustain a higher power output, higher speeds when the group really kicks on or things get a little bit spicy, should we say, on maybe a faster paced group ride. The recovery period between these efforts, I've always found them really a good one to go with, is 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, when you're doing the 2 times 16, have 10 to 12 minutes recovery between the 2 blocks at 50 to 65% of your FTP. And that will allow you to just have some recovery there before you then go back on and do your next effort. If you can access a climb that is around 16 minutes or whatever, you have a climb that's long enough to do these efforts, awesome. Again, if you're someone who lives in the Alps, Pyrenees, Dolomites, wherever you are in the world, States, we've got people on this channel from all over the world, which is great, and clients from all over the world, which is really good. We're expanding, we're working with a lot of guys over in the States in a minute, even in the Middle East. So wherever you are in the world, some of you may have access to climbs that are 16 minutes long, which is brilliant. If you haven't got climbs that are that long, again, not the end of the world. Like I said, on the VO2 intervals, you can do these on a flat section. And again, this is really good for if you are a time trialist who's just looking to build that sustained sort of flat speed. I'm sure that you can get out to somewhere that's potentially a little bit quieter and you can sustain between 90 to 100% of your FTP for 16 minutes on a flat section of road is quite not easily done, or it's manageable on a flatter section of road. So this session here, again, really good one. Incorporate this in. With a structure, you might go 1 VO2 max. I mean, that's the first session I would always go with. That's why I went through that one first. If you're going to do 1 interval session, I would go with a 4x4 VO2 session. If you're going to do another interval session, then I would add this one in, or the next one that we're going to move on to now, which is that was session number 2. Put number 1 in there, or I left that up there. That was session number 2. Okay, again, take a screenshot, take a video, whatever you need to do, take a picture for that session there. And then we will move into now the third and final session for today to really get you some good late summer gains with your power and fitness. This is session 3, and we're just going to take out the recovery period, the duration. As I say, the intensity for the recovery period always 50 to 65% of your FTP is enough just to spin the legs between each effort. So next one is 4 times 8 minutes. Okay, real good session. Again, this is sort of a roundabout threshold. It's a bit of a crossover between threshold, upper end threshold, and VO2 max. So I would recommend that you do these 8-minute efforts at pretty much 100% of your FTP to around 105 potentially. As I say, there's a bit of a crossover here. We're doing sort of upper threshold, and then we're coming into VO2 max. Generally, a VO2 max interval would be around about 3 to 8 minutes. So we're at the lower end of a VO2, but the higher end of your threshold for this session. Okay, so in here, again, if you've got something that you can access that's 8 minutes in length, if you live somewhere that's a little bit flatter or doesn't have as long climbs, then 8 minutes might be a little bit more manageable for you. If you've got somewhere you can do that long, but again, this is a great session that you can do on the flat. I think we always refer to, when I say doing intervals, or a lot of people think that you always have to go and find a hill. Always have to do hill repeats with these, but I know and appreciate you may not always have access to that, and that's fine. You can do it on the flat. You're potentially maybe not getting as much of those specific climbing type gains, using those muscle groups a little bit when you're on an incline. However, in terms of targeting the energy system and the target power, you should really be able to do this. Okay. Now the recovery period here, this again will depend on what your level of fitness. And I would say anywhere between 5 to 8 minutes. Okay, for this, the recovery period is between the 8 minutes. Again, if you're just starting to bring some intervals back in and you've done no real interval training, you've just been getting on and riding and just cruising around for the past 2 or 3 months, I'd recommend that you probably do like a 7 or 8 minute recovery period between the 8 minutes. As you start to progress this, you can shorten that. You can go to 7 minutes, 6 minutes. You may even do 5 minutes between these intervals working at this intensity. And again, the same with the intensities there. If you just get back into it, try to do 8 minutes at 100%, so basically 8 minutes at your FTP. And then as you start to progress, you can even start to notch that up a little bit and work closer to the 105. So yeah, there's a little bit of how you can actually progress these sessions in there as well. Again, all 3 sessions that I've gone through today, I'd recommend a minimum of a 10-minute absolute minimum. Appreciate a lot of you guys watching this are busy professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, very time crunch with your time. So you might not always be able to get like a full 20 to 30 minute warm up in and then do the same for a cool down. So I would always say minimum 10 minutes, probably around the best sort of time I'd find would be 15 to 20 minutes if you could do it. Go into your interval session and then do a minimum of a 10-minute cool down, or just ride back home the fastest way that you can get home whilst just cooling down at the end. And that will also then really help with your recovery as well when doing these sessions. So yeah, there's 3 sessions there today. Hopefully that's been, I've laid that out clearly for you. You can take those, and there's always the option to do them indoors, but they're also really quite straightforward in terms of basically, the first one, 4 times 4 minutes at VO2 max. In terms of creating a session or building a session, you can almost just memorize that. The same with the 2 times 16 and the same with the 4 times 8. These may sound really simple, but I guarantee you, 100% guarantee you, if you haven't already been doing this type of structure, the training, and just looking at these intensities with your training, you start to do these now from now and through till, should we say, October time, or just for the rest of the summer, incorporate at least the 1 VO2 session and then do the 2 times 16 or do the 4 times 8 minutes as the other second interval session if you can. If not, just try to do the VO2 max and then just incorporate the rest of your group rides, club rides, social riding that you may also be doing at the moment. But you will see some real good progress. Climbing speed will improve, fitness will improve, FTP will improve, and people might be turning their heads and saying, what have you been up to? And I'm sure, well, I guarantee you, as I say, that this will really help. Yeah, if you found that useful, please drop a like on the video, thumbs up on the video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Ben from My Cycling Coach, founder. I've been doing this now for the past 10 years. The research, the science, the practical application, the hundreds of business owners, busy professionals, entrepreneurs we've helped with their cycling being time crunched. And if I've helped fast track you to some of your goals today, I'm going to help you now eke out a little bit more fitness over the rest of the summer, then I've done my job with making these videos. Hit subscribe if you just watched this and you're new. Keep up the great work. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Speak to you soon.